Hi, this lesson is going to be about introductory and concluding paragraphs, and you are going to be making a graphic organizer that you're going to keep with you throughout the year, that anytime you write an intro or concluding paragraph that you can use to help you write it. You should have a piece of cardstock. On this cardstock, you are to draw a triangle resting on its point, just like in the picture of the PowerPoint. Your introductory paragraph should resemble a triangle standing on its point. It starts broad. It starts with a broad topic and works its way to the point, or your thesis. So you need to start with an attention getter. In middle school, you used things like, imagine if you were stranded on a deserted island. Well, that's what 3 boys were in the book Lord of the Flies. Or you asked a question. You said things like, would you like to have ice cream? Well, in this book, these boys did too. These are not acceptable anymore. Not that they weren't good in middle school, but now we're going to move you to high school writing. It's time to expand your horizons. Instead, you can use an interesting fact. You can use facts that you've discovered in your research, but do not use the fact if you are using it in your body paragraphs. Don't do that. Keep it in your paper. If you're doing a research paper, you can use one of the facts from one of your sources. But it should be broad and introduce us to the ideas of your paper. Quote is the most popular one done in 9th grade language arts, and we're going to talk about it in a bit. Or you can start with a short personal story. But be careful, for you have to get rid of the personal pronouns and you need to tell your story quickly. It's not a very long story in your introduction. We like you to use quotes. You can use a website called brainyquotes.com. And when you do, you'll start your paper off with a quote, and then you'll actually put was said by and put the person who said it, put a comma, and then tell me who that person is. To be or not to be was said in a Shakespearean play, and Shakespeare was a well-known writer from England. We need to know where these come from. We need to know who it is you're talking about, and that way we can better understand your paper. So once you've got your attention getter, then it's time to bridge. Why did you pick that quote? What is that quote telling us? Why did you put it in this paper? Sometimes your bridge can be a short summary of the work you're talking about, but most likely the first thing you have to do in your bridge is that it should explain the hook. It should lead us to your thesis. You're going to try to do 2 of those things. Maybe you have to have 2 sentences for your bridge. Maybe you can do it in 1. It's up to you. And finally, the most important piece of your intro paragraph is the thesis statement. Your thesis should always be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph, no matter what. Don't put anything after your thesis. It should be 1 complete sentence. Okay? There is some information there that if you want to see about thesis statements, you can follow up. There's some other resources. Your concluding paragraph now should go on the back side of your graphic organizer. You're going to draw a triangle sitting on its base now, because guess what? The conclusion starts with the point and it gets broader. It starts with your thesis and works its way out to give advice or to make suggestions about what the reader should have learned. It always starts with a transition word. Try not to use the obvious in conclusion, but you can try things like overall, on the whole, summing up. These are all on your graphic organizer sheet that you got at the beginning of the year. It's orange. You should restate your thesis. This means that you're not rewriting your thesis word for word, but instead maybe you're changing the order, or maybe you're restating it using other words. Okay? Do not change important words like tone words or theme words, but you can wordsmith some of the other parts. All right, the next step. Sorry, I don't know what happened with my slides. Here we go, though. The next step after restating your thesis is that you need to leave your reader with something to think about. You're not rehashing all the points you said in your essay. This is not trying to bring in new facts and make one last argument. Instead, you're leaving the reader with something interesting to think about. They should maybe give advice. Maybe you are encouraging them to think about the lessons and how they can avoid them in the future. Here's some additional resources for conclusions. And here's what it should look like on your graphic organizer. Starts with a transition word and then the thesis is restated. You're working your way to the broad base and you're going to give 2 or 3 sentences of advice. What should the reader learn and apply to themselves? That's all the PowerPoint for today. Hope you now have a good graphic organizer that talks about conclusions and introductions.